Well, let's now cross to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and speak to Javed Ali. He's an associate professor of practice at the University of Michigan. Thanks for joining us. Just how significant is this prisoner exchange? Of course, not just for the people involved, but for international diplomacy. This is quite a success, some might say, at a time of huge international tensions.
Well, Charlotte, nice to be with you. And at the people level, yes, it is absolutely a success. From the American perspective, there's been intense efforts the past several years to get these four Americans back. One of them is actually from the Metro Detroit area here in Michigan. So I can just speak from the local community and how much the people here have wanted to see Mr. Whalen come back. And on the Russian side, I would have to imagine they too have tried to press for the release of the people who've been detained overseas. But at the international level or the broader level, it remains to be seen how significant of a development this is, at least with respect to U.S.-Russian relations. I don't think it is going to have an impact in terms of the significant tension between the U.S. and Russia. But yes, I do agree that there are aspects of this that speak well to how diplomacy worked to bring all these people back to their respective countries. But at least with respect to U.S.-Russia relations, I don't see it delivering a major breakthrough.
Okay, so don't read too much into it, is what you're saying. The exchange itself, that moment of the prisoner swap, is of course extremely tricky, and you don't know exactly how it's going to go or what's going to happen until that very last moment. How important is it for the US to have a partner like Turkiye who can help with the security arrangements, with the coordination, and indeed with providing a location to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. In these very complex prisoner deals, you always need a partner to help walk through all of those very precise details that you just mentioned. In this case, Turkey actually, obviously stepped up and played a huge role. And that must have taken months and months of planning, because these kind of negotiations don't happen overnight. And then making sure that every step along the way is taken care of, has all the right protocols in place, ensuring the security, making sure the planes can land and take off without problems. These are all practical steps that need to be worked through, and it takes an enormous amount of effort for that to happen. It didn't surprise me to hear that the Turkish National Intelligence Organization was the lead in this case for the Turkish government.
So since 2020, the US has put a huge amount of focus on getting its citizens who have been imprisoned or taken hostage abroad back. Can you talk to us a bit about why it's decided to do that? It can be a very tricky thing to try to do at the same time as other diplomatic endeavors are going on. And of course, it's negotiating with regimes around the world that some might consider hugely questionable.
Well, this effort actually goes back several years, even before that. I would argue into the Obama years, when in 2015, President Obama, at least in the United States, signed an executive order that sort of changed the structure of how the U.S. government deals with these complex hostage recoveries and negotiations and prisoner negotiations. And so now there are different parts of our U.S. government, to include a position at the State Department that has the rank of an ambassador, the role inside the National Security Council, where I served under the Trump administration. That team that I was part of is sort of the lead within the White House for the policy process for all of these deals and negotiations. And then there's also, through this executive order, a cell at the FBI that is the lead for sort of the operational aspects of this and dealing with the people and the victims. So there are all these pieces of the U.S. government now that are fully focused on prisoner release and hostage recovery. And I would have to imagine that all of those pieces that I just outlined played a major role in getting to what happened today, at least on the U.S. side.
Javed Ali from the University of Michigan, thank you so much for joining us and for your insight.